Resident Evil 2 was an instant classic and solidified the IP as a franchise, but every masterpiece has its imperfections. I'm Saggi, and I'll be talking about the worst parts of RE2. The tank controls return, but aren't the true issue here. If you're playing this RE, then you've probably played the first one and are at least familiar with controlling your character. The problem arises when you're put in crazy situations that require maximum maneuverability while you're severely handicapped. The primary suspect would be the fact that there's no quick turn. In RE1, you very rarely would find yourself in a bout between more than 3 zombies, but here, you'll routinely run into halls with swarms of them, so you have to position yourself much more wisely. And then there's the bosses. Mr. X isn't too bad of an offender with his slow and lumbering nature, but once you get later into the game with these fast and deadly enemies, your slow turning will be your greatest adversary. Most of the areas traversed are quite small and or narrow like the first game, but there are more ferocious problems to encounter that make the movement much more cumbersome. This wasn't a prominent problem in the first game due to most enemies being grounded. Here though, you're introduced right at the start to an enemy that can crawl on walls and low profile your shots. It's manageable when you deal with 1 licker, but there are rooms that will have you facing upwards of 3. Spiders are similar, but are much more docile in comparison, but either way, you never want to waste shots, and sometimes aiming at the ceiling is a gamble that you most likely wouldn't want to take. I haven't even mentioned any bosses. For the most part, it's smooth sailing for the routine BOW shootout, but then you go up against Birkin, specifically G3 and 4. He's jumping all over the place and charging you, showcasing the movement and aiming working against you in tandem. You can blow him down while healing like a Dark Souls character, which is a way to circumvent the problem, but lets you ignore aiming and movement, perpetuating this point. Capcom kept many of the aspects of RE1 and expanded upon them in this game, but some content could have been left behind, all things considered. One of those legacy features is character swapping. For a brief period, you switched to Rebecca to save Chris in the previous game, but that's only one instance there. I guess they wanted to increase the involvement of the supporting cast, so Sherry and Ada get a few opportunities for just that, and it feels pretty tacked on. This was already planned to be in the game from the start, considering it was a part of RE 1.5, but the execution still leaves a lot to be desired. It isn't necessarily an issue of gameplay, but how their sequences factor into the overarching narrative. The Sherry sections could have for sure been axed with how contrived they come off as, and there's a single Ada section that really has a justifiable reason for existing. Leon doesn't even see Sherry more than twice, and Claire doesn't even meet Ada, ever, unless you include when she tosses a rocket launcher, which isn't canon. I appreciate the attempt to expand the game past the main protagonist, but we already have zapping. The other additions aren't needed. The game is solid in its own right, but when looking at it a bit too closely, you start to see where things are shaky. The most obvious example would be the interactions of Claire and Leon. These two are both in the RPD at one point, but almost never see each other. If Leon came into the building first, then why would Claire have to unlock doors, and vice versa? If you play Leon A, then he doesn't even get to see a tyrant at all, just Birkin. There's also the zapping system, which is also a great addition, but it's wishy-washy when and where it applies. For example, when you open the safe in the office, there are 2 items. Why isn't there an option to leave something for the other character here? A case could be made for this about any item, but the 2 characters have overlap, which would prevent this, which is a shame. Imagine needing to be wary of what ammo you pick up because the scenario B character would end up with a limited supply. Now you're actually thinking about your next run, instead of them being essentially disconnected. Speaking of disconnect, the canon story is almost hidden from the player. Usually you don't play a game and the true story sequence is locked behind beating the game twice beforehand, let alone being obscured by the order in which you play. It would be like if DMC5 let you start the game with any character, leading to different story beats, but not telling you which one is the official timeline. The effort to extend the replayability is appreciated, but I wish the continuity wasn't sacrificed in the process. But what do you think? Maybe you wished it was one continuous playthrough with no A-B scenarios. Maybe you wish you could play a short Marvin scenario a la The Fourth Survivor to see how he got bitten. Let me know below. Like and subscribe. I'm Saggi, and I'm also out.